They just have a lot more kids, and we have a lot more of an aging population and fewer kids. And of course, the ratio of people who have to contribute to the maintenance of the aged, whether voluntarily or involuntarily, is tiny relative to how it used to be. So there's a lot of things that are contributing. But of course, the demographics do to some degree follow the policies, right? I mean, I've said in my show that smart people don't breed well in captivity. And I think that's very true. When you look at, if you're an intelligent guy, you guys are young, intelligent guys, right? So you look at I could have a family, I could have kids and so on, right? Well, most people say, well, that means two people working, which means you got to get the kids up in the morning, you got to drop them off at daycare. That's a really stressful thing. Try getting a two or 3 year old out of the house in less than an hour. It's a challenge. And then someone else takes care of them all day, and it's very expensive, and then I get them home at night, and I got to feed them, and I got to bathe them, and I got to put them to bed.
And of course, what is this person? Well, how does this person see the world who's going to be taking care of them?
Right.
Are they violent by nature? What sort of traumas have they gone through in the past?
Yeah, so I think that most people look at having kids as not that great a deal, because I mean the joy of kids, I say this as a stay-at-home dad, the joy of kids is all the little stuff that happens during the day, the great conversations you get into just spontaneously out of nowhere, the great insights they'll just drop in. It can't be scheduled, it's just an experiential thing. And so I think that because taxation has risen so much, I mean this is the terrible thing, right? Housewife work couldn't be taxed, but women going to work can be taxed. So this is one of the reasons the government's funded feminism so much, to get women out into the workforce so they can be taxed, which all that means is that you end up with two people working, trying to raise kids is a stressful and difficult life. And so I think a lot of smarter people are like, not so much no, but maybe later, you know, maybe. And so you get this diminishment of the birth rate, which is entirely related to government policies and so on. So yeah, it's a whole reason why the decline of the West is going to occur, I think.
I think the Federal Reserve's policy of inflation contributed to that as well. So we used to have it would be enough for one person in the household to be able to support the entire household, but because of inflation, it's actually now two people need to work. So again, I know that you're not necessarily a proponent of gold and silver specifically, but that there should be a free market of currencies and not a monopoly of force like the central bank, the Federal Reserve System.
Oh, I completely agree. And I believe that if we were to eliminate central banking, I have no doubt that gold and silver would be the default position. Would it last if entrepreneurs came up with other kinds of currencies? Who knows? But it's hard to argue with 5,000 years of human history where gold and silver is the default currency. I don't see any reason why that would in particular change, next year or the year after if we got rid of a central bank. So, yeah, gold and silver are essential things to have. I mean, I'm with you guys as far as that goes. I've just been buying a bunch of it myself, and I'm cognizant. I just was at one of the Casey summits, When Money Dies, which was, pretty much the takeaway in many ways was, get yourself some gold.
And historically speaking, at the end of many fiat currency systems, if not all of them, you do have that default to gold and silver. But then it's basically a transitory period.
But it may last. Maybe gold and silver is the most efficient way to do it. Obviously, if you could have a currency without needing to extract it from the earth and refine it, there'd be less overhead as far as the creation of that currency goes. But at the same time, if you have a currency that can be easily created, you're going to get inflation at one time or another. So, Bitcoin has its own way of doing it with sort of, you have to put a lot of energy into creation of Bitcoins, and it gets harder the more they're mined. So, I mean, who knows? Nobody can predict it, but I do believe that gold and silver definitely in the short to medium run is the place to go, in my opinion, in terms of investment strategies. And I say this as a complete amateur idiot who knows nothing, so take that for what it's worth.
Joe and I have been pretty aggressive savers. We believe in saving. We think that we have to. Mark Faber said recently that Americans, among a number of things, are going to have to start saving. How do you advise people to go about that? Because we know we're going into some sort of crisis economically. What options do you feel they have, families and individuals?
It's easy. Saving is so easy. Just stop spending. No, I mean it's like dieting. Just stop eating. Just stop eating. To put down the cheesecake and pick up a carrot. I mean that's as complicated as it gets. I mean I know that it's not you say it and it's done, but with spending it's easy. Of course, the problem with saving and spending is that it's mostly dictated by interest rates, right? So of course the idea is that when lots of people save it, then there's an excess of capital, which means that the interest rates go down because it's cheaper, right? Whenever you have an excess, the price of it goes down, and interest is just the price of capital. And so when lots of people save, interest rates should go down, which should encourage people to spend rather than save, right? And when lots of people are spending, there's less capital, so interest rates should go up, which should encourage people to save rather than spend. It's supposed to balance out that way in the free market. But because the government Because the government controls not only the money supply, which everyone focuses on, but the government control of the interest rates is incredibly destructive to the free market, because all of those macroeconomic signals get completely messed up and bunged up. So people have been saving because interest rates are so low, and there's inflation. So sorry, people have been spending because interest rates are so low and there's inflation. So why would you want to stick your money in the bank where you get a quarter point of interest when inflation is 6%? I mean, that's just, you might as well just set fire to your money year after year. So people want to spend it and sort of put it into something fixed, whether it's a house or a car or just something that's tangible. And so, but of course,
created all these booms.
Yeah, which has created all of these booms and has starved entrepreneurs of capital. Right? I mean, this is it's terrible. And until the free market takes over interest rates again, you're just going to keep getting these ridiculous cycles.
How do you feel about Max Kaiser's Buy Silver Crash JP Morgan campaign?
I mean, I think I'm all for that kind of activism because that's win-win, you know? I mean, if you win, you crash JP Morgan. And if you don't crash JP Morgan, you still have a bunch of silver. So, you know, it's not, it's not change yourself to a cop car and get dragged 200 yards, right?
Right. And that entire campaign is based on the idea that JP Morgan has a bunch of shorts in the silver market. But, of course, because they have such manipulation over silver from the paper market, they're able to crash the price and then cover those shorts and then go long and make money off that run. But what you have seen over the last few years is you've seen the price of silver steadily rise and the price of the JP Morgan stock slowly go down. And it's, as Kaiser refers to it, price propaganda, where when you see the silver price as the same as the JP Morgan price, that spells a negative outlook for the JP Morgan price and perhaps a positive one for silver. I think first and foremost, silver is a nice hedge or savings account more than anything, because it's important to save, but where do you save is the main question. But it is good to see that sort of activism. I agree.
You save in stuff. You know, there's someone, I read this somewhere and it's very true. A really, really good suit costs about an ounce of gold about 100, 150 years ago. And you go all the way back, I'm sure it's about the same. And right now, really good suit costs about an ounce of gold. And that's the kind of continuity that you get with gold. And if you look at other things like housing prices, it's a little bit different from the booms, but lots of ratios of goods can be measured in gold. They're pretty constant. And so, yeah, I would much rather save in gold. I think stocks are going to take a bit of a beating. I think bonds are challenging. And, of course, the government bonds are just, please tax me in the future. I mean, that's all. But I think the interest is coming from a government that doesn't make any money. So, yeah, I think gold and silver are a pretty good place to go.
Any final comments on your experience here over the weekend or your own activism?
Oh, I love it. I love it. I think it's great. I really, really enjoy meeting you guys. I've enjoyed meeting other people. I feel normal here. You know, a lot of times you feel like you're kind of swimming against the current, and, you know, in Canada it's a whole different kettle of fish. I mean, we don't have much of a libertarian movement. And so I really do enjoy coming here and just feeling like I'm with like minds. You know, it's funny to see. They say it's nice to be around people who think like us. I don't quite agree with that. I think it's just nice to be around people who think, and who are open to new ideas. So, you know, highly recommend Libertopia, and this whole experience has been great. And how about you guys?
We've had an excellent time. You know, we found out about the event about 6 months ago. We decided that we would be a sponsor of it, and it's been everything we would have wanted and expected of it. We've learned a lot. There's been surprisingly a multifarious arena of ideas where you don't have everyone thinking the same thing. What you have are some people who are in some ways opposed or for ideas that traditionally you might think are the dispositions of a statist, which has surprised me.
But that's all right. It takes time. You know, I was just saying on this as a speech, I got this from Dick Body. What's the difference between an anarchist and a libertarian? A libertarian to anarchist, that transition, about 6 or 7 years if you're paying attention, which I think is a pretty good way of putting it. Well, thank you so much for your time.
Our pleasure, Stefan.
My pleasure. And if I repost this, do you want to give your guys' website?
Sure, that's no problem. This is Liberty Coin and Precious Metals. Our website's at www.libertycpm.com. And have a great day. Thank you so much, Steph.
My pleasure.